We are back on the Pirates YouTube channel from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. My name is Adam Bittner. I'm joined by Jason Mackey for our weekly chat. This is our third segment focusing on the Pirates. We're talking about Ben Cherington and his future with the Pirates. Does he have any moves left to make, Jason, that can salvage this team, that can save his job? Because I think if the season ended now, it wouldn't be good for Ben Cherington. Is there a move that you're looking toward that's going to move the needle enough, not just to make them better, but to make you believe in this team heading into 2026 enough that you're going to want this guy back making decisions in this offseason?
Well, probably not. That's the short answer. I have much more to say on the topic other than, if there's something he can do to make me believe. And I think there's some prongs to that. I mean, I've seen enough in 6 years. I think I shared the sentiment of most of the Pirates fan base, if not all of it. It just hasn't been good enough. There are small market concepts that the Pirates just have not mastered, that they need to. The topic of my Sunday column this week is Matt Arnold, the GM and president of baseball operations at the Milwaukee Brewers. And it was between him and Cherington. And look at the direction the Brewers have gone over the past 5+ years, and look at the direction the Pirates have gone, the exact opposite. So I don't think there's any one move that can make me feel any better about Cherington's tenure. But I do think it's interesting in a couple ways, Adam. You're starting to hear whispers around the Pirates about Ben Cherington really wanting to do something impactful, calling a lot of teams. And, I don't doubt it. I mean, Kevin Graves was on the 93.7 The Fan Ben Cherington show this past Sunday saying that, they're always actively working the phones and that sort of thing. And so, I understand. And if you're in the Pirates situation right now, the offense is abysmal as it's been. I think it's 26 straight, scoring 4 or fewer runs. You should want to add to the offense. You need to add to the offense. You need to trade some arms for a bat. And so that's the move that I guess if I look at where the Pirates are at and I think, can you figure it out? Can you add some more offense? Like if Cherington's able to make a move like that, maybe I feel better about it. I think there's a lot riding on that, Adam. I also think there's a lot riding on the Spencer Horwitz trade. Giving up Luis Ortiz and 2 pitching prospects. Like, if this flops and you're Bob Nutting, I mean, you shouldn't need any more evidence to begin with. But if this flops and you're Bob Nutting, you're looking at this like, dude, this was the big offseason move. This is what it was supposed to be. We're giving up 3 pitching prospects for a guy who didn't solve our offensive problems. What are we doing here? Again, this is a redundant discussion for most of the fan base, but I'm trying to get inside the head of the owner. Anyway, like, Ben Cherington needs Horwitz to work out. He needs Tommy Pham to pick up his performance. He needs to go add a bat on the free agent market. He needs a whole bunch of stuff to change in order to give anybody a reason to believe in 2026.
Well, frankly, we talked about this last week, Jason. It terrifies me, the prospect of Ben Cherington. It sounds like he's gearing up the way you describe it for a Matt Morris trade or a Chris Archer trade. A desperate move for a GM who is toast that then haunts the franchise for years to come. I don't understand why Bob Nutting would not step in and say, this is it. The team you put together this offseason is what
he might, Adam. He might. I mean, I'm not saying.
Can you imagine if they give up more pitching? Like, I can just imagine a future where we say, oh, this is a pitching-rich organization. But Jared Jones, who knows when we're going to see him again? Who knows if he's ever going to be the pitcher that we saw last season again? It only takes 1 or 2 events like that, Jason, where if you trade some of this pitching depth away for a bat who isn't an obvious star off the bat, I think you've made yourself poorer for the long run.
I know, but
I wouldn't let him anywhere close to this.
I agree with you, but what if it's like a Mitch Keller? What if they would trade Keller for a young, controllable bat, someone with a lot of upside? Would you feel better about that? I don't know if I would, but I think that's probably a more likely option.
No, because Mitch Keller's a more proven thing than a lot of these other guys.
Why do they need that?
You signed him to you signed him to a club. You signed him to a club-friendly deal a year ago.
I know, but he's going to be a number 4. He's going to be a way overpaid number 4. Wouldn't you try to trade him and get something for him?
Is he the number 4?
He will be. Well, might be the number 3 now. Skenes, Bubba. I don't know. I guess he's the number. Heaney's ahead of him now. I don't know. Look, man, I wouldn't do it. I'm just trying to present the other side of the argument. I wouldn't have Cherington employed. I wouldn't keep him through the draft. I wouldn't keep him through the trade deadline. Enough is enough. I would end it right now, and I wouldn't make any significant moves. I'm just saying that, like, it's not outside the realm of possibility. That's why presented the argument the way I did. I mean, Kevin Graves is on the radio talking about it, saying like they're actively working the phones, trying to do these things. Like they're going to try to get a bat in here. They're going to try to get somebody to fix the problem. And I don't know about you. I just don't have a lot of confidence they're going to do that. What trade have they made that has actively made the team better? Like giving up actual assets. I don't mean like claiming Joey Bart on waivers, in a trade for cash, like actual trade.
A baseball trade. Yeah.
Baseball trade.
I have zero confidence in the thing that, Bob Nutting has seen this movie before. I think that's the thing that I don't understand is you have a GM in a desperate situation who messes you up for the long run. And if you believe Bob Nutting, he's going to be here and he's going to have to live with the consequences of a trade that doesn't work out. And that's why I wouldn't let him do it. But that's just me. Speaking of trades, Jason, there's been a lot of chatter this week around Paul Skenes after Jeff Passan, I believe, on the Pat McAfee show, and said that it makes logical sense. I know you have a problem with this. I don't quite have a problem with it from a logic standpoint and just the way this franchise is going. But I want to let you articulate that first because I know you wrote it about a little bit on Post-Gazette.com.
All right. I want to hear your opinion, too. We're going to go back and forth. It's going to be good. We're going to keep it above the belt. But no, I hate the idea. Why can't you just build around the guy? You have the world's biggest bargain right now. Like, if you're not going to build around Paul Skenes, one, sell the team, two, fold the franchise, just pack it up and let's move on. Because, I mean, that's just abhorrent. Look at what you've been given. And furthermore, Adam, the Pirates have solved the hardest thing there is to do. Theoretically, you find young starting pitching that's really, really good, that's outperforming what their contract should look like. The Pirates have done that. They could bring Bubba Chandler up here, and their rotation has already been really, really good. It's going to get even better. Bailey Falter's been incredible in May. Heaney's been very good. Skenes has been very good. Keller's been very good. They've got guys in the minors. Like, they've done the starting pitching thing. Why not add other pieces? Why not add offense? Why not spend money? And you know what? If your GM can't take care of the small market stuff to draft and develop and get guys internationally and do all that stuff, then get somebody who can. Compare and contrast to the Brewers. Imagine if you would hand the Brewers a starting staff of Skenes, Keller, Heaney, Bubba Chandler, and Bailey Falter. What would they do with how much they've been able to find and identify and develop these position player prospects that nobody has ever heard of, but you grow them up and you drop them into your lineup and they're really, really good. So, I mean, that's why I say no. And also, like, the people saying trade Paul Skenes, you don't want Ben Cherington executing a trade for Mitch Keller or like Braxton Ashcraft. You want him pulling the trigger on a Skenes trade?
No, I don't want him being the one pulling the trigger.
Okay. I'm
talking organizationally, Jason. I think the problem is, A, you're not going to re-sign him. B, we know historically when they know they're not going to re-sign a player that they are traded with at least 1 year and often 2 years left of team control.
Yeah.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul Skenes lost 1 year of control because of where he finished in Rookie of the Year voting last year. So realistically,
you're going to get another full year of service. They're going to have 4 years after this one. Yes.
Right. So you're talking about maybe a 3-year time horizon with this guy if you kept him and then just let him walk for nothing. So that means realistically, you're more looking at 2. I think it's too late. I think it's too late for this franchise to compete with Paul Skenes. And if that's the case, then I think you get what you can for him while you still can, while you can still leverage him for the maximum return. The time to
are you trying to go scorched earth on your fans? Is that what you're trying to do? Just alienate any fan that you have left who's like stuck with you through this thing, who caught a glimmer of hope and like had a little kid and bought him a $150, $200 Paul Skenes jersey with the expectation that it'd at least be here for 4 or 5 years. You're going to tell that person, go screw yourself because we're going to go trade him too?
I think that I think they've already done that, Jason. I think the damage is already done. I think
I don't.
So I don't think they're going to win in 2 years. And if you're not going to win in 2 years, then he's not an asset.
How do you know they're not going to win in 2 years?
What do they have in the lineup, Jason?
They have a starting rotation that's been pretty darn good.
But as we're recording this, I think they haven't scored more than 4 runs in like a month.
I know. What's preventing them from finding a new GM who does the process differently? What's preventing them from spending a little bit of money and go actually make free agent additions that make sense? They could have signed Paul Goldschmidt this offseason. They didn't. Next offseason, they're going to be a similar guy. Austin Hayes, same thing. You can look at him in the Red Series. Like, you have a different GM who's making different decisions about how you spend free agent dollars. You can actually get something here. And then you can put it around a starting staff that is pretty darn good. They have some pieces here, Adam. I don't think I can blanket say they're not going to win in 2 years. They're not going to win in 2 years doing things the way they've been doing them with Cherington in charge. I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, I would just say I'd have to counter-program everything I've seen from this franchise for my entire life to believe that that's possible. And that's just, do I think that there's like a theoretical chance that you could bring in the right GM and make the right moves and turn this around more quickly? Sure, but I don't believe in the decision makers involved that that's going to happen. And I don't even necessarily believe if you get rid of Ben Cherington that you're gonna find a guy who can work that kind of miracle in that period of time. And is it sane to reorient the entire franchise around a guy who's not going to be here? I think would be the argument too. You saw him in the dugout the other day, staring blankly into the void, realizing every Pirate reaches that moment.
A lot of people are reading into that stare.
It's hard not to, Jason, and so it's just
but it's funny. I have a line into Paul that most people don't, and like a lot of people are trying to read his feelings, and that's not the sense I get. I mean, it's not. Like, a lot of people think that Paul Skenes is screwed here. I don't think Paul Skenes thinks that Paul Skenes is screwed here. A lot of people are going to make that decision. A lot of people have determined that like he can't win here, so the Pirates should trade him. Like, Paul Skenes is going to make what decision is best for him when he has to, as he should. Any of us should. But like, inside of that, there seems to be this intimation that like he's unhappy or depressed or they should get rid of. I know you're not saying that, Adam. I'm kind of just reacting to fan sentiment in general. Like, I think Skenes still believes he can win here. I don't know. I don't know what you do with that, because I do understand the idea that you could trade him somewhere. I don't think they're that far off from putting a winning product on the field, and I would entrust those responsibilities to somebody else. If I'm running the Pirates, I would not send out my most attractive asset at this point well before I have to, if I can avoid it. I just wouldn't.
Well, but I think that turnaround has to happen in no less than a year. And if we're at this point a year from now and they're not substantially better, you can't keep the guy. And that's still frustrating for a lot of people because you'd be talking about him, barely 2 years into his career here. I get it.
Let's just work through this a little bit logically, though. Let's say they traded Ke'Bryan Hayes. Could you see Ke'Bryan Hayes being traded to like the Yankees, a team that could hit a little bit, could use his defense, whatever? I could. I don't know about you, but like, you make that trade, that's $8 million off your books, roughly 8 to 10. Go spend that differently. Spend it better. Look at what they spent this offseason, roughly $20 million on free agency, plus too much more on analytics, whatever. Take that money, scrape it together, spend it more logically. I don't want to see Mitch Keller traded, but I can understand business reasons for why you might. Go get a young bat. Bring him in here. Maybe find a different role for Henry Davis. If he catches more, maybe he gets into something. I don't know. Maybe Joey Bart plays first base because he hasn't been great catching. You try to play your team a little bit differently. Like, I just think there are things the Pirates could be doing that they haven't done. A lot of GMs, Adam, you and I have talked about this a lot with Neil Huntington and building a bullpen. Ben Cherington has not been able to do that here. And that's not something that costs a lot of money. It's not something that takes a lot of time. They should be able to do that. So if I've got a starting rotation, I've got more offense, I've got a bullpen, what else am I missing? Like, why can't that team compete? I don't understand that. And like, just in that amount of time, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is another one. Like, his salary is going to, they're going to be able to spend that too. Like, we've probably created, even in Pirates land, like $40 million that they could spend this offseason and spend in a different way. To find a smart GM to actually use that money in a way that you get requisite value, let's say one win above replacement for every $8 million or something like that. I'll take that. Plus what they have handled a little bit differently. I don't think this is a sunken team.
You are a far more optimistic man than me, specifically for what you just pointed out of like, what's the cost of a win above replacement? 40 million. Let's say you get 5 wins out of that. Well, this team is on track to win less than 70 games. And if you get 5 marginal wins, it's not getting you anywhere closer. And I think that would be my.
I think next year I would hope to have a different. I think you could put it all together differently. Like I wouldn't, what am I trying to say? That this team wouldn't be sitting here on May 22nd with 17 wins in its pocket. It would hopefully be playing a much better brand of baseball that have more offense.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it being better, but I still can't see it being good. And I guess part of it defines a winning team, Jason. And do I think that they could scrape together 84 wins and maybe slide into a wild card spot with Paul Skenes? Yeah, I can conceive of that. I can't conceive of them being a legitimate threat to win anything in the playoffs in the span of time that we're talking about. So,
but can you conceive of them trading Paul Skenes and then turning into something that's a winner?
I can conceive of it more than I can conceive of them doing it in the next 2 years.
Tired of kicking the freaking can, Adam.
Oh, trust me.
Kicking the can. You've got the piece. If you can't build around him right now, get out. Go do something else because it's not working. That's what I want. I want the absolute here. Either you can do it, you can surround Skenes with something, and you can go for whatever window because you've been blessed with this arm in this situation. Or if you're not going to do it, again, I don't want to hear about trading. There's nothing that's going to change my mind there. Go for it.
No, I mean, listen, there's a fan perspective and a watchability to this team that certainly I understand it and agree. It's just I have a lot more pessimism about the actual outlook here. But Jason, I do want to get your thoughts quickly on a couple of baseball topics on the other side. You mentioned the catchers. I want to get your thoughts on Alexander Canario. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Hey, Pittsburgh. When you think of great roofs, you think Greenewalt Roofing Company. With over 20 years experience, Greenewalt knows your roof is your home's first line of defense. From rain, wind, snow, and ice. That's why Greenewalt Roofing's standard for perfection is so important. You can trust that their team of experienced installers will treat your property like it's their own. When it comes to roof replacements, Greenewalt Roofing is Pittsburgh's only choice. Visit greenewaltroofing.com today or call 412-314-8882 to schedule your free estimate. PA contractor number 36262.
We are back for the last couple of minutes here with Jason Mackey talking Pirates. Jason, I know you wanted to talk about the catching situation, Henry Davis, Joey Bart. Joey Bart's defense leaves a lot to be desired, especially with this pitching staff. Are you getting the most out of the pitching staff that you can with him behind the plate as things continue to go south with Spencer Horwitz? Do you want to get a look at him at first base? How do you see this situation playing out with these two guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough situation right now because they need to get Horwitz at bats and they want to play Joey Bart because they need offense, and he's one of the few players on their team that can hit. The only unfortunate thing is that he can't catch. And I guess you could maybe split him and Andrew McCutchen, but you're also going to be looking to maybe get Henry at bats, Endy at bats. I don't know. There's not enough to go around. But I would start investigating it a little bit more. I think you could kind of ease into this, Adam, where maybe you play Joey Bart at first against left-handed pitching and try to adjust things with Horwitz, ride the hot hand. I mean, I think you can look at the Pirates and say that Joey Bart probably shouldn't be your catcher of the future. He might be your DH of the future. He might be your first baseman of the future. He should certainly be in the lineup more often than not because you need bats, and he has one. But I also look at the Henry Davis component, and I wonder, like, he had a really good game yesterday. So it might be recency bias here on my part, but like, is that available if you play him all the time? Is that something the Pirates can get used to? Like, he has made improvements defensively. I think what they're asking of him is really, really hard to play once or twice a week. I'd like to see more production to sort of demand that. If Henry Davis, every time he was playing, was basically yelling to us, play more, that would be great. But it's an interesting dynamic. And then you're going to add Endy back to it. I don't know if I have any great solutions, but I would start to kind of experiment a little bit with Joey Bart somewhere else because I can't see him as this team's long-term catcher. He's just not good enough back there.
Yeah, I think Henry Davis is where things break down for me because I have zero belief at this point. And it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that we're talking about him as the better defensive option for this team when it wasn't that long ago that they were sticking him in right field and he was running around like a confused giraffe out there because he had no natural ability there. And they were talking about it like to excuse promoting him for all that time. They were talking about him like he had like a lead glove. And no ability to do this job. And so now you're in a situation where, yeah, I don't believe in the upside of him being a really good defensive catcher. Maybe he can be adequate. But but how big is the upgrade you're really getting from Henry Davis, from Joey Bart?
Yeah. You know what's funny, Adam, where I think they screwed up is getting rid of Jason DeLay. It's not a major screw up. They've certainly made much bigger boneheaded decisions. But like, how nice would it be to have a defensively sound catcher whenever you need him? And then you could give Kutch a day off and just play Joey Bart as a DH. Like, you have to catch Bart because he hits. And you don't have anybody in your lineup who can hit. But like, I would just like to have Jason DeLay to like catch Paul Skenes and somebody else. And you knew that Jason DeLay would just be fine. He's a fine defensive catcher. Wasn't going to be fancy, but he wasn't going to embarrass himself. He handled himself just fine back there. But anyway, that's a little bit of an aside. Yeah, it's an imperfect scenario, no matter which way you look. If you play Henry more, if you play Bart more, if you try to integrate Endy into that, it's a catching situation that shouldn't look the way that it does for investing a 1-1 pick in that position. I know that.
I looked that up while you were talking, Jason, and Jason DeLay is a 231 hitter, which sounds great to me.
Be the second best behind Bart.
Exactly. So, yeah, I would say offensively that might have been a mistake, let alone defensively. Jason, what do you think of Alexander Canario? He's been on a little bit of a heater. We've seen guys do this in 6 years of Ben Cherington. He brings them in. They look good for a month. Basically never heard from again, or if they're heard from, it's in a bad way. You're talking like Jack Sawinski, Jared Triola territory. So are we seeing real things from Alexander Canario? Does he have a possible future on this team, or is he just the latest guy on a little bit of a heater?
No, might be the latest guy on a little bit of a heater. We've had a lot. The latest John Nogowski or Emmanuel Valdez for a little bit, or I think Wilmer Defoe had some moments. Now, I will say this about Don Kelly. He's utilizing Canario in a much more sensible way. He's giving him regular at-bats and seeing what's in there. And some of that's been dictated by injuries and whatever. There's just been more opportunity there. They're going away from playing Tommy Pham. All of that makes sense. I'm not at the level where I'm ready to say Alexander Canario has made it. I don't even know if it's Canario or Canario. If we're talking in a month from now, we'll get the pronunciation down, I guess. I don't know. But, I want it to work out. He seems like a good kid. They certainly need outfielders. They need power. He has a lot in there. Right now I look at it as small sample size theater. I think there's a possibility of bringing it out, like them playing him more. I'd keep doing it until he tells me otherwise. But yeah, we've just seen too many guys who kind of flash and then disappear for me to commit to anything long-term.
Jason, any final thoughts on the on-field? I know we spent a lot of time on the big picture in the off-field this week, but anything you're seeing from this team? They win the series against the Reds, which I think instantly makes it one of the better weeks of the season already. Yeah,
it's a low bar. It's a low bar, Adam. You know that. No, I'm not seeing anything discernibly different. I mean, the vibe around the team is slightly better with Don Kelly in charge. A lot of people like Donnie. I agree with the move to bring on Gene Lamont. I think they've skewed a little bit. I wrote about this earlier in the week. A little bit more toward old school baseball, or at best kind of marrying analytics and old school baseball feel. I think that's what you have to do. I think they got a little bit too far in one direction. But, I say all that, and there's also a lot with them that just doesn't make sense. I can't explain to people logically why Cherington is still here. I can't explain to people why, you've had all the off-field issues that you have and Travis Williams remains employed. Derek Shelton's taken the fall for an entire regime that has failed. And I don't understand why Bob Nutting is continuing down this path. It's not what I would do. I don't have a logical explanation for why he's doing it. I've asked. As people can see in the Q&A, I didn't really come away with that as any clear-cut answers. I mean, shoot, Bob was talking about this year being salvageable. It's not. It's almost like the Pirates refusing to see what they are. So
I think it's gambler's fallacy. I think gambler's fallacy is where the only way you can interpret it of like he's invested this amount of time and he's invested belief in these guys. So, and what's the upside of pulling the plug now is probably the question Bob Nutting is asking, versus maybe whatever the slim chance there is of a turnaround, things coming to fruition where maybe you can buy into these guys you spent 6 years on. But yeah, there's a lot of guys at the casino who feel the same way.
Yeah. And it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
Good talk.
A bright note to end on there. Jason, thanks for joining me this week. We will be back next week. We'll have some Steelers OTAs to chew on, maybe some more interesting Pirates topics. So make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. If you enjoyed our videos this week, please pop likes on them. Help us out in the YouTube algorithm. We always appreciate that. All right, we'll talk to you all again real soon.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.